All right, welcome. We're doing something a little different today if you didn't notice it. We don't normally have couches on the stage. It's kind of comfy.
It's kind of nice that we have it.
Oh, let me see that. Make sure you're turned on.
Testing, 1, 2.
Yep.
Testing.
Oh, it's good. Okay.
Nice.
We got to make sure you hear all of our good jokes.
There we go. It's a nice couch. We could
Yeah.
use this one.
Okay. We'll be delivering this to your home after. So I wanted to take a little bit of time just to kind of update you on what we're doing today. So if you've been here the last couple of weeks, you probably know. If you haven't, then I'm going to catch you up. We started a series at the beginning of the month called He, She, We. And so week 1, we had someone come speak to us, kind of focusing on the guys. And then last week, we had someone here speaking mainly to the ladies. And this week, we're going to talk to everybody. And though some of you, maybe we're all in different places of our relationship. Some of us are married, some of us are not married, some of us used to be married. Our hope is that something that the Lord releases today ministers to you. That's our heart. Our heart is to really just hear what he's saying and say what he's saying. And so I'm going to take a second to introduce our guest. This is Adam and Cara Nitz. They're actually part of our house. They attend here. And yeah. And so I think the way we're going to do this, we're going to have a conversation, and y'all get to listen in on it. And so yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Now that I say it that way. So you know, I'm gonna pull my notes up because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But you know, Adam and Cara, they have a ministry that's called the Way for Love Marriage Ministry. I did check out their website. It's pretty cool. They do marriage coaching. And so if any of you guys need marriage coaching, which, I mean, I hang out with a lot of married people. We all need a little coaching, including me. And so I don't know if we had that slide, maybe not. But you can go to thewayforlove.com to check out more about them. They also have a podcast called the Marriage Unmasked Podcast, which I subscribed to this morning. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. So subscribe, go find it, check it out, like it, subscribe, hit the smash the like button. I think that's what the kids smash the like button. But I think I'm going to start by just asking you guys, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us how we got to a place where you guys are pouring into married couples and marriages.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've been married 19 years, and we didn't know what we were doing when we got into it. So it was like we were just almost deer in the headlights when we got into actually like understanding what we were doing. We had rose-colored glasses on coming into marriage 19 years ago, and we really struggled. We struggled a lot. I came in as sort of like a passive, nice guy kind of guy who's just kind of go with the flow, like, hey, whatever you want, honey, happy wife, happy life, and that kind of attitude. And she's very vivacious and spunky and type A, you know, and so she's, you know, it was hard. It was a hard dynamic, let's say, and she came in with a lot of wounds too from childhood and whatnot. So she was looking for a safe place, and she found some safety in my quietness and my calmness, and I was looking for some adventure and excitement, I think, and she definitely provided that for me and kind of broke me out of my quiet zone. But it was a major struggle. It was kind of like our first year, our honeymoon. We'll probably tell you that story, but our honeymoon was like a nightmare. I don't know if anybody. I mean, yeah, you talk about a honeymoon period. We didn't have a honeymoon period. We're actually maybe in the honeymoon period now, like 19 years later, and not even all the time. But yeah, we really struggled. We struggled to communicate. We were like talking past each other, constantly arguing, constantly at odds. And one of the reasons we like have the name for our marriage unmasked is because it's so easy to hide that, you know. I don't know if you can relate to that, but it's like you can go, I mean, I was a pastor of a church for 3 years. You can go to church, everybody can see everything on the outside. It all looks good. It's like this veneer. Everything's perfect. Oh yeah, they're great. They're in love. And then behind the scenes, a lot of things can be happening that nobody knows about. And I think there's a lot of marriages in our world that are like that. They look one way on the outside, but behind the mask, there's a lot of pain and suffering going on. There's a lot of disconnect and communication issues, and the enemy is attacking with a lot of lies and stories that people are believing about themselves and about their marriage that is really destroying what that marriage is all about and the testimony that that marriage is for the world. And so for us, you know, it took many years to sort of get to the bottom of that, many years to get to the bottom of that and to kind of heal some of those things. And
yeah, and you know, I think through the years we were trying so many things. You know, we went to therapy and we did coaching and we did all kinds of things, and we were, you know, obviously we had a relationship with Jesus, and you know, it just kept, you know, we were kind of asking why is our marriage so painful? Why do we just struggle and you know, God reminded me that there can be purpose in that there. So I realized, like, God wanted us to use our marriage, to be honest, to help others, but I didn't know exactly how.
Yeah.
And I of course kind of wanted to like take control of it. Like, oh, okay, I have an idea. Maybe we could start marriage night at our house and invite couples over and all these things. And I was like, you know, I heard God just like, just wait. You know, don't jump the gun.
Yeah.
And one weekend, Adam and I were actually driving in Arkansas in the mountains, and God just put it on both of our hearts so strongly to create this marriage course, Healing Your Marriage course, and start our home ministry. And it was just one of those like almost light bulb moments. And so, you know, we were obedient. We didn't, you know, we hadn't ever done anything like this before, other than, you know, Adam was a pastor. And so we just were obedient, and God he has spoken through it. He's behind everything, and we just are so thankful for the healing he's done in our marriage, and now what we can walk others through as well.
Yeah.
That's good. So, you know, as you're talking, I have a million questions going through my head, and then I've got a list of questions I'm going to ask, so we'll see how this connect. But something that you guys said as you were talking, you know, you talked about bringing this past hurt into our relationships. And I think that all of us can identify with that, whether we're aware of it or not. And so why don't you guys talk a little bit about that? How can differences in our personality or our upbringing be turned into strengths instead of sources of tension? Which I think oftentimes we feel the tension.
Yes, yeah, and obviously Adam kind of shared a little bit, but we can relate to that so much. You know, our upbringings were very different. We have very different families, and then our personalities are very different as well. And so right away, even on our honeymoon, this was so apparent. You know, Adam had kind of made a big deal about that this was going to be this very special, you know, he'd planned this whole thing, and we were going to this special place. He didn't tell me, it was a secret. And so I'm excited, you know, I'm thinking this is going to be, you know, a honeymoon, like you have a once in a lifetime honeymoon, right? And so the day that we get there, and I traveled a lot with my family, and so I was used to going to resorts and things. My family was very adventurous, travel, whereas he had not really traveled much, and you know, usually if he did it was just to other relatives' house, and so he just had a very different view of what special was than I did. And so when we get there, we're at a resort, and I had been to resorts like this many times with my family, but to him, this was the first time he'd ever been to a resort. So this is extremely special to him. And I'm there, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe he booked like this special honeymoon suite. This is, you know, he said this is special, like this is gonna be good. And we get there up to the room, and it's just a regular room like I've gone to a million times with my family. And so you know, I'm a pretty open book, and so he can read the disappointment on my face immediately. And, you know, and so anyway, it just caused, right from that moment, it was like we were in pain, right? We were, you know, he's shutting down because he doesn't know what to do now that I'm, you know, disappointed. And I'm disappointed and don't know what to do with that because he's shutting down. And so these kind of things can happen in relationships when you're so different and you speak a different language almost, right? And so there's so much opportunity. And over the years, Adam and I have kind of asked ourselves the question, like, why, God, did you even put us together? You know, we are like two different worlds. But he's always reminded us over and over how it is actually such a gift, right? If I'm just with someone else who's the same kind of personality as me, like, I'm not growing at all. I'm just acting the same way I've always acted. But now Adam has challenged me and he's helped me to grow so much. One thing in particular, like, he's amazing at forgiving quickly, and I'm like stuck in pain. And so he's taught me over the years so much how to be soft and forgiving and loving. And I honestly didn't know that very well from my own upbringing and the hurts that I had. So there's so much opportunity for growth. It's just that, sometimes there's hurdles of communication and things like that, but when you can work through that, there's tremendous opportunity for you to actually grow as a person and grow as a couple and be really powerful for God's kingdom.
So I'm thinking back to like this first day of the honeymoon, and you have this immediate moment of disappointment. And if you could look back to Cara and give her a piece of advice for that day, like, what would you tell her out of your testimony at this point? You've got 19 years. Like, what would you tell Cara that day?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I would honestly tell her it's okay to be disappointed. Let's, feel that. Take some time and allow yourself to feel that emotion. I mean, I didn't even know how to name emotions back then. I knew I was feeling something, but I don't know what it is. I don't know how to really feel it. I don't know to bring it to God and let him be my safe space and let him fill me with the love that I needed. I didn't know any of that back then. And so I'm just kind of bleeding out this hurt, this disappointment. Like, you said this was, and now it isn't, and this is my once in a lifetime honeymoon, right? So I don't know how to regulate my nervous system. I don't know how to do any of that. And so that's what I would teach myself, how to be compassionate and loving and get those needs met with God instead of trying to have him meet my needs.
Sure. I love that. It's like, it's okay to feel the disappointment. Yeah. It's really just what we do with it. So that's great. I appreciate that story and the answers there. I think this leads me to my next one. This is a big one for me because I don't know that I always even get this one right. My wife would tell you that I don't, so let's just say I don't get this one right. But I think that we all probably in our lives have dealt with conflict. And so I think this is a question that we have here that I really, really like, and I'd love to hear your take on it. How can couples handle conflict in a healthy way?
Yeah.
The biggest thing about conflict is to really, first of all, feel your emotions in it. Like Cara said, to really be more aware of what is actually going on. And conflict can be a healthy thing if it's done in a healthy way. Conflict doesn't have to be this thing that destroys things in your relationship or that causes you to shut down or separate. The enemy wants to use conflict that way all the time. He wants to use conflict to separate, destroy, spread his lies. But God has a purpose for conflict too. As we heal those things together, healthy conflict can draw us closer in a relationship again and can cause some of that growth that we were talking about. Like when there's differences, now those differences can be turned into growth because we are bringing those things to the light in this conflict that we're having, instead of just using the conflict to just separate or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've gone through lots of unhealthy conflicts, so we're actually experts at this now.
We're experts at unhealthy and healthy.
Well,
Me too.
Yes,
Still
both.
growing.
But we don't always practice healthy conflict perfectly. But I think, like Adam said, the first step really is to, even before you have the conversation, you want to identify what's going on in your own heart. What emotions are you feeling? That is really important, right? And to have time with God to feel that, to name it, to feel it, to share anything that's going on, any of the thoughts that you're having. So for instance, like, we've had a lot of conflict just around, Adam, he has struggled with breaking trust in our marriage. And he would say he kind of grew up in this family where he learned to people please. That was like a family value, to be the nice guy and to have everyone think that you're good, right? Yeah. And so that's caused a lot of issues in our marriage as he is saying he's going to do something and then promising and whatever, and then he doesn't do it, and he tells me he did do it, right? Or situations like
all
that.
All about appearance, like to try to look good. You say whatever she wants to hear, and then you end up really lying to her, and then violating that trust, and that just destroys the relationship over time.
Yeah. So, for instance, I'll just give you a little example. You know, I'm feeling super disappointed. He lied again, right? The trust is broken again, and so I'm having all these thoughts, and I can first bring that to God instead of coming to Him and saying, I can't believe you did this. You're a liar. I can't trust you. I can't believe that we're at this spot again. You just keep repeating the same behavior. I'm just telling that all to God, right? I'm just like, God, what's going on here, right? And I'm letting that all out with Him. He wants to be intimate with us. He wants to have that relationship where we open up our heart and share everything with Him, and it's completely safe. And then when I've let that all out with God, I've received His love, right? His compassion for whatever I'm feeling. Then I can start the conversation with Adam, and and what we like to do is to teach couples to each give each other the space to share how you're feeling and to take ownership for what's going on for you. And so I might say, I'm feeling, and this is important because a lot of times people say, I feel like you're always lying. I feel like you never tell me the truth. But that's not actually a feeling. So identify the actual emotion. I feel deeply disappointed. The thought, I'm going to take ownership for some of my thoughts, right? The thought that keeps coming through my head is, I cannot trust you. Right, and then we want to validate each other in that emotion and show each other that, like, I see you in that, and it matters.
Yeah, so I would say something like that. That makes a lot of sense to me that you'd feel that way. I can see how that matters to you, and your feelings really matter to me in this situation.
Mm-hmm. And then Adam gets a chance to kind of share what he's feeling.
And so again, I could have taken time with God as well. Now I'm taking time with Him, and I'm confessing, here I am, here I did this again. I'm receiving that forgiveness from the Lord and soaking that in and growing in that. And then in a place of peace, coming back to Cara and talking through this, and I might say my feelings are, I'm ashamed. I'm really ashamed that I did this again. I ruined your trust again, and I'm very sorry for that. And I take ownership for that fact. This is what I did. This is what I said I was going to do and didn't do. So taking full ownership for that and just telling her how I feel again. And then she has a chance to validate that.
Mm-hmm, right. So I might say, well, thank you for sharing that. And at any time, if anything that your partner says, your husband or wife says, that kind of triggers pain in you again, right? Then maybe things start to feel like they need to amp up, like, well, if you wouldn't, but right, like that could happen, and it has happened a lot for us. It's okay to take a break, right? Yeah. It's okay to say, I'm feeling some big emotions right now. I'm going to go take 5 minutes, right? It's important to communicate that. Otherwise, your partner may feel abandoned, like, we were talking, this is important to me, and you just left, right? There's
been a clear
plenty of
time
that.
frame, like, okay, it's going to be 5 minutes, it's going to be 10 minutes, then we'll come back and we'll finish the discussion.
Yep, and so I can take that time again and go to God again, and like, okay, God, I can't believe he's saying it this way, like, whatever, right? And then when we come back, we can kind of discuss how we're going to resolve this. What are the next steps?
Come up with a plan. Like, okay, if we're in this situation again, how am I gonna do this differently? And come up with an actual, like, action plan for this, and say, that situation isn't gonna happen again, and here's how. And then actually enact that plan and follow through on that plan, and have some accountability. Maybe there's some boundaries that needed to be put in place so that if this happens again, then there's going to be this response that's going to happen because of that.
Yeah, and sometimes there needs to be repair at the end as well. If there has been things that were said that were hurtful, that added more pain, take time to repair, to let them know, I am sorry, I do love you, I appreciate who you are, right? Or, whatever needs to be done for repair, that's important as well.
I think what stands out to me in this, and as I'm listening, I'm like, how can I apply these principles to my marriage? I love that it's inviting the Holy Spirit into it. How many times have I been in conflict with my wife, and I never really stopped in that moment to find out what the Lord had to say about it? you know, and I think that taking the time to invite the Holy Spirit into these moments of conflict, you know, I say this all the time, like, if we wouldn't need conflict, but we're made to be peacemakers, you know, that's why you need to be a peacemaker, because so you can deal with conflict. And so I think that asking the Lord, stopping and telling him my problems first, like, man, I can't believe, I mean, I never have to say this about Cindy, but I'm sure she's constantly like, God, why is he acting like this again? And, you know, and that I could see how, obviously, we would, the right thing to say is always invite the Lord in, but then when you think about a practical way to invite him into these moments, you know, it leads me to, and you may have answered this in part, but the question that I'm inclined to ask is, you know, whatever the level of trust that's been broken, there's many levels of trust that can be broken in a marriage. How do you rebuild the trust? Like, you know, you're handling it right in these moments, but how do you get to a place where you believe he's not lying to you again, or you believe that he's not you, but just you know, you believe about your wife that she's not doing this thing that she shouldn't have done, or the husband? How do you rebuild that trust?
Yeah, trust is such a huge foundational part of the marriage too. So, like, it can be lost, like with a bomb. You know, like there can be a huge trust loss if there's a big lie that's found out, or a big thing, or it can be like death by 1,000 paper cuts, like in our case, where it was just a lot of little things over time, where she learned over time she couldn't trust me. She couldn't, that my word wasn't good. And it takes a long time and a long process to repair that. And you really have to start, like we said, healing those wounds with God on both sides. So if I'm breaking trust, I have to get to the bottom of that. I have to actually get to understand my heart. Where is this coming from in me? And God, work on this in me. And you're working with the Lord on healing whatever shame, whatever issues, you know, whatever wounds that are deep inside there, maybe from childhood or maybe from elsewhere in life, that are causing that coming out in this really unhealthy behavior in the relationship. And she's working on healing with God as well, because the trust is broken and she's very hurt and in pain. And so there has to be healing there. That's like step one in like rebuilding trust, is to really actually work on the deep root issue of why it's there in the first place. And then after that, it's really consistency. It's following through. It's actually having a plan and enacting that plan and making your word good by consistently following through and constantly, you know, keeping your word and acting in a trustworthy way going forward, again, with the Lord's help and inviting him on that process. And then it's also transparency, being very transparent and allowing, you know, you become an open book then for your spouse. You're not hiding anything. You're not trying to keep something else in the shadows or whatever. You're just letting that out and letting her have full access to that. Which
Don't get me wrong, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then I imagine there's guys sitting in a room is like, oh, I can't trust her with that. Like, yeah. and then also, if I confess that, I'm going to lose everything.
Exactly.
How do you? We'll just stay with what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. How did you get to the place where it was okay to tell the truth?
Yeah, that's healing. It is. It's healing with God. It's really like having that deep relationship with him and knowing that I'm okay with him. No matter what response she might have, or, you know, like this could really blow up. This could, you know, like you're trusting him with yourself, and you're trusting him with her, and you're trusting him with the relationship. And that's where you get the confidence and the strength to be transparent, to be honest, to actually share those things, because you know this is for our best. This is ultimately for the best of the relationship. And there could be really big consequences to sharing and being honest, but God's got this more so than me. And if I'm trying to control the outcome, that's not going to work. It's God.
And I think too, like, I mean, that there's so much healing that's needed for both spouses, right? For me, I came in with wounds about men. Men were not trustworthy. That was my belief coming in. So I'm already on guard. Is he untrustworthy? Is he safe, right? I'm on guard. I'm seeing all the ways. My brain is looking for all the ways he isn't trustworthy. So I need to heal what's going on in my heart, these beliefs that I have about men, the hurts that I have about how men are unsafe. And he really had to heal like this people pleasing, this whole like, that his whole purpose is to be a good boy and to do all the right things and have everybody like him. Because that was at the root of why he keeps telling me, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm taking care of that. Yep, I got that. Yeah, right? Because he wants me to first give him a smile. Oh, okay, great, right? But then later, he's forgetting that later there's going to be a big pain, right? Because I'm going to find out he didn't. So it's it's identifying what are these wounds in my heart, and asking God into that heal, helping him. He's the one who heals that.
So how did you come to a place where you understood that there were places that needed healing in you? Like where you recognized that those were things that were contributing to your marriage in a negative way? Because I imagine that we all have this. We have wounds from our childhood, from life. It's just we live in a fallen world. But I imagine that a lot of people in the room have never identified, oh, I react this way because there's this thing. Yeah. How does one identify that? Obviously, we give it to the Lord, but how do you identify that you're willing to come to a place where you're ready to work that out?
Yeah, and I think that's when you are just, you're in your relationship. Even if you're not married, you can learn these things. You can even learn these things as a child. But when you're in a relationship with anyone and they do something, they say something happens that triggers this big pain in you where it's like, whoa, that makes me really angry, or that makes me really sad, or whatever. And then you can get curious with yourself and ask, where is this coming from? Like, first it's compassion, right? First it's compassion, like, I care about you, right? You're talking to yourself. I know it maybe sounds a little bit weird, but it is very, very helpful and important to offer that love and compassion to yourself, and then get curious, like, when do I remember feeling this kind of big disappointment in the past, right? When do I remember feeling betrayed like this in the past? Oh, that's right. It was when, for me, it's like goes back to my childhood, and oh yeah, I felt like, I was going to, if I made one wrong move, I'm going to get, I'm going to get attacked, right? Or whatever. And so that's identifying that, and then you're really going back and inviting God into that healing. And I love to ask God, like, where were you in that moment, right? And what do you have to say? What were you doing then? How were you protecting me? How were you loving me, even when I'm going through that kind of pain? And that is so healing, to bring that compassion back to that moment when you were so deeply hurting and you weren't getting that love and compassion, and you didn't know how to move through that other than to cope, right? Whatever coping mechanism your nervous system gave, whether it's freeze, flight, right, fight, whatever. For me, it was fight,
really
usually.
I love that one in those moments being okay with you. Like I think it's oftentimes we can see the beauty in everything but ourselves. And so you have this moment where you're like, hey, I know I responded like I didn't want to, but I'm going to give myself grace. But then also I love this idea of if we believe that he's omnipresent and that he's everywhere all the time, then he was there in that moment. And where were you? Why am I responding this way? Like, what happened? Because I think we all, if we're honest with ourselves, the reason we find ourselves in these moments with our spouses, or actually any relationship, is because it's this trigger. I know we hear the word trigger all the time, but I know there's times like I get triggered whenever my wife tells me to do something that I'm already going to do. And it's probably because I just don't like being told what to do. And so I need to ask the Lord why. What happened to me as a child? And so but it's true. I know what triggers me. I know when my blood pressure starts raising. And so I'm sure I'm not the only one in the room that has these moments where a friend or a spouse says something in a way that it causes us to feel like we need to protect ourselves or respond. And so I love that it's inviting the Lord into these moments. And so that's really good. And so remember that, guys. Whenever you get in an argument today with your spouse, like, stop, love yourself, and then ask the Lord, where are you? That's good. That's really good. This is a fun kind of, it'll be a triggering question for you. So what does it mean for wives to submit to their husbands and for husbands to love their wives as Christ loves the church.
Yeah. That actually did used to trigger me badly. I would get in like arguments in religion class about this with guys who were like being so forceful about it, and I was like, no way. Anyway, and so really, this is when for the wives at least, like this is actually a beautiful gift that God gives us in this. It's not, the word submit does not inform your worth or your value. Actually, a few verses earlier it says, to submit to each other, right? Submit to each other. So clearly there's not a problem with that word. Someone who's submitting is not someone who's lowly or their voice doesn't matter. That is not what that means at all. It doesn't inform your worth. What it really is, it's a heart posture. It is this beautiful gift that God offers us. I like to think of it as like surrender. This beautiful gift for wives, we get to kind of surrender and rest in our husband's leadership. He has a heavy responsibility. God tells him, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Holy cow. I'm glad that's not for me, right? So I get to just surrender and trust. And I know that isn't always easy. And it doesn't mean, like I said, you don't have a voice. That you have a very important voice as a wife. And you get to sharpen your husband. And if he is leading you into a path that is not healthy or sinful, right? You get to say something. And it is important for you to do that. But it's really this beautiful, kind of restful, I like to think of it as like this restful posture that we get to enjoy. We get to relax into our femininity and let him handle all the heavy responsibility. and he, as men don't always do this perfectly, right? They're not perfect leaders. When there's trust broken in our marriage, I have a hard time with this. How do I respect my husband when he can't be trusted? How do you even have a marriage when you can't trust your spouse, right? That's really difficult. But what I always remember, and what I still do sometimes, I have to remind myself and go back to God, is I can first submit to you, God, right? I first submit to you. I trust you that you are working on my husband's heart. I'm going to pray. I'm going to be asking you, God, to give him wisdom, to help him to be trustworthy, to speak so much love and life into him. And I'm going to do that as well. But I'm going to surrender again. I can still relax back into that femininity and submit because I know that God is behind my husband.
Yeah, and that's what's so powerful. And for guys, like you said, that is a heavy responsibility. I mean, our standard is Christ. That's incredible. And it's like, so how I'd break that down is like, it's you're willing to go to hell and back for what she needs most. And that may be protection in some cases, like you're willing to go in front of a bus for her and lay it all out on the line for her physically. You're willing to move heaven and earth to financially provide for her. Like you are in the place of Christ for her, and you're an example of that kind of love for her and for the world. And so it's really a powerful thing. But it's willing to go to hell and back for her, just like Christ went to hell and back for us. And that takes a lot of strength, and that takes a lot of time with the Lord. And you have to be led by him so that you can lead your marriage in that direction. And you have to heal some of those things like I did and I'm still working on. Some of that inclination to be passive, or that inclination, because that's not Christ. So he works on those things in you, and he grows you, and he strengthens you, and he teaches you how to lead more in line with how he leads. And you have to rely on him an incredible amount in order to do that. And you're never going to do it perfectly, but you're going after that all the time. You're going after that kind of leadership in your home.
That's really good. No, I totally agree with you. If guys would just stop and ask yourself, what does it mean to love my wife like Christ loves the church? You'll realize that it's a life commitment of it's actually the life of being a Jesus follower. Mm-hmm. Because if you pursue him and you live like him, you will ultimately love your wife the way that he loves the church. And
I think I had this backwards when I first, I knew the Bible, I knew it, but in my own wounds and whatever, I had this backwards, and I wonder if a lot of guys do, where you think you're sacrificing yourself for her, but that doesn't mean that you're sacrificing yourself for everything she wants. You know, that doesn't mean that you become a doormat in the relationship. It doesn't mean that you just go along with whatever she says. That's not leading like Christ either. And so for a long time, I had this wrong. I had this idea that, well, you know, I'm loving like Christ because I'm just sacrificing whatever, you know, like I'm just sacrificing what I want, I'm sacrificing what I need. No, that's not it, though. You're sacrificing according to what she needs, and that takes wisdom because you have to really know what she actually needs. Sometimes she doesn't know what she needs, and you have to know that. You have to really know her really well. You know, maybe she's overburdened, you know, like she's running the house, and she's taking care of the kids, and she's got a mental load that's a mile long, and that happens a lot. And you as a husband, you can sit back and be passive and not notice that, or leading like Christ is, where is she burdened? Where do I solve this problem? How do I take off that burden and put it on myself? What kind of like structure needs to happen? What kind of chores need to be done? All of that stuff, so that you step into that leadership and take off that burden, because what she needs is less stress right now because it's killing her, you know, or whatever it is. You have to be wise enough to know what she needs, so you have to know her very, very well as well.
It's good. So like one of the ways that Christ loves the church is he bore our burden.
Yeah.
You know, so how do you live that out in your house today or this week? How do you help bear your wife's burden? Okay, here's one I want to ask. What's one small daily habit that can drastically improve marriage over time?
Mine is kind of what I touched on before, but mine is to first always pursue your relationship with God, right? Come to him. When I first came into marriage, I thought Adam was going to be safe. He's going to love me like I've never been loved. I'm finally going to feel loved, right? I'm going to finally get what I've been wanting my whole life. And I was rudely disappointed, right? It was a big awakening, like, oh my goodness, he doesn't love me very well. This isn't working. I feel this way, and he's not making me feel better, you know, right? Because and no matter how perfect he is, he's still never going to perfectly love me. We all come in, we all have this like empty hole in us, right? And God gave it, he put it there for him to fill. But we try to fill it with all the other things. We try to fill it with our job. We try to fill it with our spouse and the love and all the needs, like you meet my needs, right? Well, only God can meet our needs. And so to come to him every day, I like to go for a walk out in the pasture, you know, with the animals and God. That's it, right? And I'm either talking to the animals, myself, or God. But I'm out there talking and asking him too, like, how are you loving me today? How are you, you know, what are your mercies that you're going to give me today? And just filling with him so that that hole is full, and I am now able to outpour onto my husband, onto my family, instead of coming to my family and my husband with it empty, grasping for them to fill it for me, which is never going to work.
Yeah, that's good.
And for me, like, a daily practice is really gratitude. Like a practice of gratitude, being intentional about gratitude is huge, because you cannot be negative or, you know, grasping or any of that if you're constantly practicing gratitude. Like even sometimes when we're in a disagreement, I will actually, in the moment, start to be grateful for things. And it changes the atmosphere immediately, because I'm like, oh, look how beautiful she is. She's very angry, but she's very beautiful right now. Like, look at how her hair looks.
My wife
oh,
would
goodness.
hit me if I said
like,
that. You're so beautiful.
Oh, he doesn't say it out loud.
I don't say it because I know it's not the time to say it yet.
Playing.
But I'm internally, I'm appreciating this. You know, I'm still listening too. I'm not ignoring what's going on. I'm listening to the words, but I'm also appreciating. So if you're finding, if you're very intentional about appreciation in your life, any kind of situation, whether it's, you know, outside conflict coming into the marriage, or circumstances coming into the marriage, or whatever, you find things every day to be appreciative for, and you are thanking God for what you have and how he's blessing. And you're looking for that. You're looking for, how is God blessing me today? What can I be thankful for today? Even if it's a really hard day, you know you got blessings from God. So,
you know, what I love about that, I think it's oftentimes, and I've been there in our almost 24 years of marriage. I've been there where you get to where you only spend time identifying the things that you wish were different. Like, if only she would do this, or if only she would respond this way, or if she'd tell me this. And so what I love about this is that a simple step for no matter where you're at in your relationship today, whether you're married, whether you're not, just relationships in general, instead of spending time focusing on what you don't have that you think you need, what if you spent time just offering gratitude for what you do have? Because I do believe that marriage is forever. That's the intention. And I think that I came to a place of healthiness, not with my wife, when I realized we're going to have conflict, but she's not leaving. Like, she's going to be here tomorrow. And so I do have those moments where I don't ever feel, where I feel grateful in the moment, you know? And so we're getting close to the end here, and there's at least one more question I want to ask, but maybe two. This is kind of, this is a fun one. What are some ways to keep the spark alive in marriage?
Well, Adam and I, for a while, like he said, we didn't have that honeymoon period. So we didn't have the spark kind of from the beginning. But now, and I didn't actually think it was ever going to come. I thought it was just going to be hard all the time, and we weren't really even going to like each other. One of the things that is kind of not talked about enough, I think, that brings that spark is, for that strength of their masculinity, because that complements and that brings this attraction and this fire like nothing else. The last couple of years, so we've been married 19 years, so you can even get the spark back if it's been gone forever. So many couples that we work with, it's kind of, we have all these things going on, and now this is a problem. So now we have to painful spot, because all the other things in life, and they might be good things, but when they take precedence over your we're like parenting partners. Well,
we're just roommates, yeah.
Yeah. And so prioritizing that, Adam and I, a couple whether it was a date at home or a date out, and then we're going to do one special date every month where we kind of maybe go overnight, or we just spend like the day together. Alone too, to just be like, hey, this is Adam, this is Cara, like this is who I am as a woman, instead of just mother, husband. This like dynamic here that we love and that is so beautiful and such a gift from God. We want to enjoy it. We don't want to just kind of put it on the back burner and like someday, hopefully, we revive that spark.
Yeah. And another thing that's important is like daily check-ins, like where you're communicating every day in a very like, and it doesn't have to be ritualistic necessarily, but we have that where I'm gone working outside of the home most of the day, but we check in the morning before I leave. We have a regular check-in at noon. We have a regular check-in at like 2:30. Like you're just constantly, you have to prioritize communication with each other and be able to, flirt during that time too. I mean, like you get that spark back by communicating and keeping that relationship fresh every day in some small way too. And guys, get your wife flowers and do all that stuff, like all that kind of stuff. Those little things matter too. Just to keep, kind of part of knowing your wife is knowing what matters to her and how can I show love to her in a specific way that will make her feel seen, heard, loved, cherished in that moment. And those little things go a long way.
That's great. Here in a second, I'm going to have them just pray over us. But I do want to say, guys, and I'll speak specifically to the husbands right now, just based on what they just said. We're talking about do the little things. Send the text, send the flower, whatever it is. And sometimes, depending on, I'm going to start beatboxing. Depending on where you're at, that may not even feel safe. Like, I'm scared to put myself out there because she's not going to respond, or she's going to think I'm trying to get something. But I think that if you imagine what would it look like in the context of loving your wife like Christ loves the church. Because I will say that there's days where Cindy and I maybe aren't getting along in that moment. Maybe we go to work and we weren't quite right. But, and I would avoid her. I would avoid messaging her. I would avoid texting her. But I've learned, send the text. Like, send the text. Be the peacemaker. Be the reconciliation facilitator. Like, be the person, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with all, you know? And so that's for both of you, husbands and wives. But I agree, just, you may be in a place where, like, I could never do that. I tell guys all the time, hug your wife. I tell them all the time, pray for them out loud. They're like, I would never do that. She would think I'm crazy. Okay. I promise you that if you want the relationship that you've dreamed of, if you don't want to wait till that day to come, practicing the little pieces. And so, first of all, thank you so much for being here, guys. Could you guys help me thank Cara and Adam? I appreciate your contribution. Thank you for the encouragement and the tips. And if you could, I will tell you, the way we're going to end the service, I'm going to have them pray over us, and then they're going to make themselves available with our prayer team to just pray with you. If someone wants prayer for their marriage, if they want prayer for healing, whatever it is, we're just going to have, I'll release this, but we'll have the prayer team available, and Cara and Adam have agreed just to be available to pray with you, to talk with you. Thank you for that. So if you would, guys, would you just pray over everyone for us?
Heavenly Father, we're just so grateful. We're grateful that you've given us this beautiful gift of marriage and relationships between men and women. It is such a gift from you, and help us to see it as that every single day. Help us to grow in knowing and learning how to lead like Christ, love our wives like Christ, and for wives to submit like the church submits to you. We ask your Spirit on us to help us and just infuse us with the power and the strength to do that, and the wisdom that we need to just make our marriages our priority again. We know that it is such a powerful witness to the world when there are marriages that are strong, growing children that are strong in you, and that it is a way to showcase your kind of love to the world. And help us be aware of that and to make that a priority again, and to just thrive in our marriages, because you are so invested in our marriages, that you are so active in our marriages, and that you are healing the hurts and the wounds that we're going through so that we can show up in the world as powerful witnesses for you. In your name we ask this. Amen.
Amen. Thanks again, guys. Can you everybody stand with us? Yeah, you can clap for them one more time. Thank you so much for being here. Well, thanks so much for being part of today. Like I said, I'm gonna welcome the prayer team down to the front, and if you want a prayer for your relationship, and let's take a second real quick. If you're here with your spouse, I just want you to take a second and just look at them in the eyes, and just say, "I love you. I'm thankful for you. I love you. I'm thankful for you." You know, maybe you haven't said those words for a long time, but the power of life and death are in our tongues. We build or we destroy with our words. And sometimes that's all it takes, just, "I love you, baby." And so if you want prayer today for anything, healing, you've been submitting something to the Lord and you want someone to agree with you, we have our prayer team available. We have Cara and Adam available to pray with you. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're new and you haven't met us, we'd love to meet you. I hope your football team wins today. God bless you.